Hey there, and welcome to your deep dive on navigating the cloud.
Navigating the cloud.
Yeah.
Love it.
So we're diving into some source material from TechTalk Nexus.
Yeah.
And get this, almost 90% of companies are already using the cloud in some way.
Wow.
That's huge.
That is a lot. Yeah.
But with all the options out there, it can feel like trying to pick a smartphone plan, right? Too many choices, too much jargon.
Yeah. Definitely overwhelming.
So we're cutting through the noise
Love it.
to help you understand the core benefits and the big three players, AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud.
The big three.
Yeah, so it's not just about being on the cloud anymore. It's about being on the right cloud.
Exactly. And that's where getting past the jargon is key.
Okay, so to throw back to our smartphone analogy,
Yeah.
you wouldn't buy a data plan without knowing how much you'd actually use, right?
Oh.
So before we even get to providers, let's make sure we're on the same page about why this whole cloud thing is such a big deal.
Okay, so think about it this way.
Okay.
Traditionally, if a company wanted to run software or store data, they needed to buy and maintain a whole bunch of expensive hardware.
Yeah.
Servers, storage, drives the works. It was a massive upfront investment.
Right, huge upfront cost.
Huge upfront cost. But with cloud computing, it's like switching from owning a car to using a ride-sharing service.
Cool.
You pay for the computing power you use when you use it without the hassle of maintenance or upgrades.
Okay, so that renting instead of owning model, that makes sense for cost saving.
Right.
But what about the other advantages you hear about? Like, what does it even mean that the cloud is scalable?
Okay, so imagine your website suddenly gets featured on a major news site.
Oh, okay. Everyone's going to your website.
Traffic spikes. In the old days, your servers might crash under the strain.
Yeah, you're down.
You're down. But with the cloud, you can automatically scale up your resources to handle the increased demand.
Oh, wow.
It's like having a flexible workforce that expands and contracts as needed.
That's huge.
Yeah,
No more frantic calls to IT because the website's down.
exactly.
And what about this whole remote work revolution? How does the cloud factor in there?
Oh, it's been a game changer for remote work. Think about it. With all your data and applications hosted in the cloud, you can access them securely from anywhere with an internet connection.
Oh, it's true.
No need to be chained to a desk in a specific office.
Right.
This flexibility has been essential for the rise of distributed teams and flexible work arrangements.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about how much the workforce has changed and how much technology has facilitated that.
Yeah.
And let's not forget about data security,
Right.
especially with all the scary headlines these days.
Right.
Isn't it kind of risky to put all your data well out there in the cloud?
It's actually the opposite.
Okay.
Cloud providers invest heavily in security measures that are often far more robust than what most individual businesses can manage.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They have entire teams dedicated to monitoring for threats, implementing the latest safeguards, and ensuring your data is encrypted and backed up.
So it's like having your own personal security detail, but for your data.
Exactly. And if, despite all those precautions, something does go wrong, say a natural disaster or a major outage, cloud providers have robust disaster recovery plans in place. They can often get you back up and running much faster than if you were managing your own physical infrastructure.
Wow. So there are a lot of advantages then to moving to the cloud.
Absolutely. It's becoming less of a question of if and more of a question of when and how for a lot of companies.
So how do we even begin to choose? There are so many options.
Right. Well, let's start with the biggest player in the room, Amazon Web Services.
Okay, so AWS.
AWS.
They're often the first company that comes to mind, and for good reason.
Yeah.
AWS has been around the longest. They basically pioneered this whole cloud computing model that we know today.
They were really the first to market in a big way.
Yeah, TechTalk Nexus mentioned they have over 200 services.
Yeah. It's incredible.
It's mind-boggling.
It is.
It's like walking into a giant tech supermarket and finding an aisle for absolutely everything.
That's a great analogy because that massive selection is one of their biggest strengths.
Okay.
Whether you're a tiny startup or a Fortune 500 company, AWS likely has a service tailored to your needs.
Really?
Need to build a simple website?
Oh.
They've got you covered. Want to analyze massive genomic data sets for medical research?
Oh, wow.
No problem.
So whatever crazy innovative thing you're trying to build, AWS wants to be the platform you build it on.
Precisely. And because they've been at it for so long, they have a huge global infrastructure.
Okay.
We're talking data centers all over the world.
They're everywhere.
Which is why businesses that need constant uptime and low latency, meaning minimal delay, often choose AWS.
Makes sense. Plus, TechTalk Nexus mentioned their massive developer ecosystem,
Oh,
which I
yeah.
imagine is a big draw for companies.
Absolutely. It's like having this massive support system built right in.
Okay.
Imagine running into a technical snag at 3:0 a.m.
Oh, no.
With AWS, chances are someone in their community has already encountered and solved that exact problem, and they've probably documented it online.
That's amazing.
This kind of shared knowledge and collaboration can be a lifesaver for businesses.
So it sounds like AWS is kind of the obvious choice then.
It can seem that way.
So what's the catch? There's always a catch.
Well, that massive service catalog we talked about,
Okay, 200 services?
it can be overwhelming even for seasoned techies.
I bet.
And their pricing, while flexible,
Yeah.
can be notoriously complex.
Yeah.
It's easy to rack up a hefty bill if you're not carefully monitoring your usage.
So you really need to know what you're
You
doing.
gotta know what you're doing.
It's like having a super sophisticated toolbox with every gadget imaginable.
Right.
Useful if you know how to use them all, but potentially intimidating if you're just starting out.
Exactly. Now, that doesn't mean AWS isn't a good choice.
Okay.
In fact, for many companies, especially those with complex needs or those expecting rapid growth, it's the ideal platform.
Okay.
But it highlights the need to carefully assess your needs and technical expertise before diving headfirst into the AWS ecosystem.
Okay. Important points to consider.
Mm-hmm.
So AWS is the giant, all-encompassing platform.
Right.
But what about those businesses already deeply embedded in the Microsoft ecosystem? That's where Azure comes in, right?
Exactly. Microsoft saw an opportunity to leverage their existing relationships with businesses, and they created Azure with seamless integration in mind.
It's kind of brilliant when you think about it.
Oh, it's very smart.
If your company is already using products like Windows Server or Office 365 Azure, can feel like a natural extension of your existing infrastructure.
Yeah, it just makes sense to a lot of companies.
It's like that feeling when your phone and your laptop just work seamlessly together because they're from the same brand.
Exactly.
Everything just clicks.
Precisely. And this is particularly relevant in the world of hybrid cloud solutions, which Azure excels at.
All right, let's break that down. We've thrown around this term hybrid cloud, but what does it actually look like in practice?
Okay, so imagine a retail company that has sensitive customer data. They need to keep highly secure on their own servers.
Okay, makes sense.
But they also want to leverage the power of cloud computing for analyzing shopping trends or personalizing recommendations.
Yep.
They could use Azure to connect those on-premise systems to its advanced analytics tools.
Oh, that's cool.
They get the best of both worlds, control over their sensitive data and the agility of the cloud.
So it's about finding the right balance between control and flexibility, depending on the specific needs of the business.
Interesting. So Azure is all about integration and hybrid solutions, making it a good choice for businesses already familiar with Microsoft products. What about their strengths in terms of specific services? Where do they really shine?
They've invested really heavily in artificial intelligence and machine learning,
Okay.
recognizing the growing importance of data-driven decision-making. Their AI platform is designed to be user-friendly even for businesses without a dedicated team of data scientists.
So they're trying to make AI more accessible to the average business, not just tech giants with unlimited resources. Exactly. But while Azure gets a lot right, it's important to acknowledge that they have had some high-profile outages in the past.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that time a few years ago when a bunch of popular websites went down because of an Azure outage. I vaguely remember that causing a bit of a panic.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's a good reminder that even the biggest, most sophisticated cloud providers aren't immune to technical glitches.
Yeah. It's like even with all the safeguards in place, sometimes the internet gremlins still find a way to cause mischief.
It's true. Reliability is crucial, especially in our always-on world.
Right.
But those incidents highlight another important factor to consider when choosing a provider.
Okay.
Finding one whose strengths align with your specific needs and priorities. And that brings us to our final contender, Google Cloud Platform, or GCP.
Right. GCP. We can't talk cloud computing without mentioning Google, the undisputed king of data. What's their play in this space? Why would someone choose GCP over AWS or Azure?
Well, Google came to the cloud game a bit later than AWS or Azure,
Okay.
but they arrived with a unique advantage, their unparalleled expertise in data. Remember, Google's entire business is built on collecting, analyzing, and understanding massive amounts of data. It's in their DNA.
It's true. Google practically invented the concept of big data.
Exactly. And they've taken all that knowledge and experience and channeled it into GCP. One of their standout offerings is BigQuery, a service designed to make analyzing huge data sets, we're talking terabytes or even petabytes of data, fast and accessible.
Okay, hold on. We need to unpack that. Terabytes and petabytes sound impressive. But to put that in perspective for our listener, we're talking about the equivalent of millions of songs or even an entire Library of Congress worth of data. That's insane.
It is. But here's the thing with GCP. You don't need to be a data scientist with years of experience to unlock insights from that mountain of information. Their tools are designed to be powerful, yet user-friendly.
So it's like having a team of expert data analysts at your fingertips, even if you're a small business owner or just starting out with data analysis.
Precisely. And we can't forget about their strength in machine learning, which is powered by TensorFlow.
TensorFlow, isn't that one of the most popular machine learning platforms out there?
It is, and Google developed it. With GCP, businesses of all sizes can leverage these tools to build everything from recommendation engines to fraud detection systems.
It's wild to think that technology once reserved for tech giants is now within reach for practically anyone with an internet connection. And GCP is leading the charge.
They are, and because Google has spent decades building a global network for their search engine and other services,
Right.
GCP benefits from that infrastructure. We're talking about fast speeds, low latency, and high availability no matter where you are in the world.
Okay, so they've got the data expertise, the powerful tools, and the global reach. But what about cost? How does GCP's pricing compare to the other giants?
GCP is known for being very competitive on price.
Okay.
They actually offer a pay-as-you-go model, where you're only charged for the resources you actually use.
Nice.
And in many cases, they offer lower prices than AWS or Azure, especially for sustained use cases.
Music to a budget-conscious business owner's ears. Okay, so we've got powerful data tools, competitive pricing, a global infrastructure. What's the catch? There's got to be some trade-off, right?
Well, GCP, while catching up quickly, still has a slightly smaller service catalog compared to AWS's massive selection.
Okay.
So while they might not have a pre-built solution for every single need, their areas of specialization are top-notch and they're constantly expanding their offerings.
So it's more about whether their specific strengths align with your business needs rather than a lack of options.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's all about finding the right fit. And that's the perfect segue to our final takeaway. We've explored 3 powerful cloud platforms. AWS, the veteran with a service for everything, Azure, the master of hybrid cloud and enterprise integration, and GCP, the data crunching powerhouse. But the best choice for you, our listener, depends entirely on your specific needs, budget, and long-term goals.
It's like choosing the right power tool for a job. You wouldn't use a sledgehammer to hang a picture or a tiny screwdriver to build a house, right?
Right.
Each tool has its purpose.
Precisely. The key is to understand your needs and then choose the cloud provider whose strengths best align with those needs.
Amazing. Well, it's been so fantastic unpacking all of this with you. We've covered a lot of ground from the core benefits of cloud computing to the strengths and weaknesses of the big 3 players.
It's a fascinating field.
Yeah.
And it's only going to become more important in the years to come.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the cloud. We hope you've gained some valuable insights to help you navigate this exciting and ever-evolving world.
Absolutely.
And don't forget to check out the show notes for links to that TechTalk Nexus episode and other resources to continue your cloud journey.
Yes.
Until next time, happy computing.